So this is going to be just a quick update on what I've been doing on the Menace source code, because I have been going back to doing some work on it. I've not actually worked on the Menace source code itself, but if you've seen my posts on YouTube, you'll notice that I'm actually trying to export the data that's in the game, like this background data that's here, these aliens and this foreground data. I've been trying to get that exported out of the game because it's in a format that the game can read, but you can't read very easily. And there's no editor tools with the Menace. They didn't ship with the Amiga Format version. So there's no way of editing this data that's in the game and actually changing it. So I've been trying to like export the data out of the game, kind of reverse engineering it, and then sticking it into a format I can edit and then putting it back. And I've made some progress on that. So I'll show you what I've done. There's a folder called Tools PC now, and in there, there is actually a C# script, which is really a run once thing, but all this does is goes through all the data out of Menace and starts exporting it out into PNGs and into map data format that I can read in an editor on the PC. So that's one of the things I've been working on mostly. It's just getting that data back out of the bitplane format and stuff like that the Amiga uses, and then getting it back into PNGs that I can just edit easily on the PC. It would be nice if you could create some tools on the Amiga itself to do this, which is probably what they did back in the day, but I don't want to be here for 100 years making this, trying to tart this game up. So basically I've decided to just cut my losses and do this kind of stuff on the PC and get the rest of the development done on the Amiga as it slowly goes on. So that's one of the things. This is kind of a run once script, and I actually have exported the data into here. So these are all the PNGs that I made of the alien and stuff like that. So that's part of one of the aliens. And I've also created the background and foreground maps. Where's the foreground tiles? There's the foreground tiles. So I've exported all those, and I've created a format which can be read by this. Basically a TMX format which can be opened by this tiled editor, which I've just had a go with in the past, but I've never actually made anything with it. So I've exported the data from the foregrounds and the backgrounds from Menace into this XML format that this thing can open, and they're basically here. So there's the tile set, definition of the tile set, and then this giant XML file for actually, so that's the foreground data for level 1. I only got level 1 in the game because that's all that shipped with Amiga Format, but in theory if I had the level 2 data and stuff like that, this could in theory export it, but I'd need the exact data to do that. So what that leaves me with is, I'll show you, and this is the cool bit. This is it. If you just double click this TMX file, if you pull that stuff from GitHub and you've got tiled installed, if you double click the TMX file, then it'll just open this, and this is level 1 of Menace in all of its glory. It's nice to see it all shrunken out like that. That's the whole map. And there's a limit of 255 tiles in this because they use an 8-bit number to store the tile index, and the last tile is actually just used as an end of map marker, so you can't use that tile. That's why that one's missing, and I think the first tile is assumed to be just a blank tile. But there it is. So I managed to export that out of the game and open it up there, and then I also I've just created an exporter from this to back out to the game. So now I can take this map and I can actually put it back into the game, which means basically I can make changes to the map. I can't make changes to the tile set yet because I haven't got an exporter for that, but I've got an exporter for this map data. Anyway, what you really want to see is exporting this back out to the game. So what I'm going to do is I'll just pick one of the tiles out of here. Let me just pick something that's almost solid, this one. And I'm just going to write my name in here because I can do that now. So I've just written my name in there, and if I just go to export as, and I pick, I'm going to export this back into the game. I know you can't see this at the moment, but I'm just overwriting the map file, which is the foreground file. So I've just overwritten that file. Now the other problem, well, it's not really a problem, but so this is, I've overwritten the file that's on this Amiga here because I've got the drive mapped on the PC. One of the problems is that because this version that's shipped doesn't actually load any files, it compiles them into the executable. So you can't actually just run this and have it see the file. You're going to have to assemble it again. So ideally the next change would probably be to actually stop this from compiling these things into the exe and have them load them in instead. And then you could just, if it reloaded it when you started the level, you could actually just, actually do it while the game was running. You could actually start the level again and see this stuff. So that should, in theory, it's got the music that I added last time. There we go. So that's how easy it was to export that into the game. But I do have to recompile. So ideally, we want to get rid of that recompilation stuff. So this editor makes things loads better. So you can just do things like you can, I think you right click around something and it just picks it up, and then you can go put it somewhere else. So I can just stick loads of trees here like this. So that's going to be way quicker, well, quicker than not having an editor at all, which is what we had before. So yeah, it's that easy. I just do that, and then I export it as over the top of that old map. Back here. Yeah, need to get rid of this assemble step, because this is just wasting time, really, isn't it? Because it's actually got changed. I can see why they did it for the tutorial though, because they didn't want to put any loading code in, so this doesn't load anything, but you do have to reassemble. So we should just get those trees appearing. In theory, I can do this with the background as well. The background just needs a different exporter because it doesn't have a delimiter at the end of the file. There we go, there's those trees I just put in. Yeah, the background, the foreground file just has an FF marker as a block to say it's the end of the file, but the background one doesn't have that, so it actually needs a different exporter. Everything in this game is just slightly different. Every single palette format and every single file is just slightly different because it's all kind of hand coded. So, but it works. So yeah, so basically I can actually edit the foreground map, and that's what I wanted to show. So, like I said, I think the next step, apart from maybe exporting more graphics, would be to to get rid of the fact that that map file is actually compiled into here. Let's see if I can find it. There it is. So yeah, the map's actually included as a binary in the executable, hence why you have to recompile. And that foregrounds is the actual graphics, like the bit planes. So that's compiled in as well. So ideally these two files, well, all these files really should be loaded, but this foregrounds file and this map file, if they could be reloaded instead of compiled, then you could actually change this and you wouldn't even need DevPack open to actually make changes to the map, which would be quite cool. So yeah, that's where I'm up to with that. So I think, yeah, next step will be, I've still got the rest of the graphics to export, ships and the panel. I've done the aliens. I haven't done the bonus sprite or the mine. Have I done mine? I don't know. Or the guardian. Ideally I should be loading in that mod file as well. So yeah, really I need a loader as well. I need to export the rest of that stuff and get a loader going. But that is where I'm up to. I've basically made it so that I can change this foreground data, which is quite nice.